Welcome back to the Uneducated Rednecks. This is part two of last week's podcast that ran entirely too long. Sorry about the abrupt ending. We're going to talk about a unique subject today, so buckle up, hang on, pay attention. Leave us a comment, hit the thumbs up button, rate us on iTunes, let us know, let us share the love. And here we're going to get right into it. A Facebook discussion or a Facebook fight over school choice.
Oh.
And I just don't understand it. They keep bringing up private school. I'm not talking about private school, okay? Listen to me. I'm not talking about private school. I'm talking about inner cities where you have neighborhoods like in Detroit and Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and Chicago, Illinois, and some of these other places, and some of these rural communities that can't support the tax to renew the facilities. She came up with some term. What was the term? White something. She called it white something. I can't.
White privilege.
No, it wasn't privilege. It was something else.
White supremacists.
Hopefully it hadn't been deleted because they're notorious for deleting the conversation.
Do you know what the average cost to send a kid to public school is for a year?
Yep.
Yes, and
expensive.
It's extremely too high.
On average, it costs $10,615 to send a kid to public school for a year.
Lies. That is complete lies. No. You come back and tell us when you put a child through school 1 year.
She called it white flight.
White flight?
White flight. She was referring to the neighborhoods that the white people left. Okay? But here's the thing. Every 4 years, we dig the minorities up, we dig the children up, and we put them on the front row. And we're going to change the world. Every 4 years. Every time there's an election, every time there's a congressional election, every time there's a Senate election or a House election, every time there's a local election, every time there's a new governor, we are going to save the children and the minorities. Well, guess what, folks? I'm sick of hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
What has been done?
Why does it need to be every 4 years?
Not a damn thing.
What has been done?
Nothing.
What has been done? People talk about systemic racism. I don't see it as systemic racism. I see it as systemic government oppression. In the final parting words, it says, maybe look into either improving schools and communities in the area you speak of, or begin to realize it isn't about the schools at all. It's about us, we the people, and why these impoverished districts are impoverished. It will be a great day when the light bulb goes off instead of a typed circular argument on Facebook. Listen to this again. This is the fascinating statement. Maybe look into either improving schools and communities in areas you speak of. Maybe look into. Every child deserves an education. I don't care if you're white, black, Asian, African American, Hindu, Muslim, Jewish, Mexican, Puerto Rican, legal, illegal, I don't care. Every child is entitled to an education. As long as we pay taxes to fund that, every child is entitled to an education. You can't tell me that the school district in a big city right over here, if you're in the right neighborhood, it's not a very good school, is it?
Right.
But if you go to the north side of the same city, it's a whole lot better school, isn't it?
It's a lot better.
It's a lot better, isn't it?
Right.
There's less conflict, there's less drama, there's less problems, there's more funding, they have more technology and everything else. Why didn't that school have it? Because its zip code dictates how much money in that bond issue that they didn't get. So don't tell me, don't. I don't care if you are a teacher. If you are a teacher, you need to hear me. My aunt worked in a public school district. She retired from that school district. My aunt has spent thousands upon tens of thousands of dollars helping these children. It is not about any of it. If we're going to play by the rules, then let's play by the rules.
So
if The inner city and select group in Oprah Winfrey's neighborhood in Chicago has a very nice school with a gated and security guards and high technology and new technology. Then when you go down to the bad part on the south side of Chicago, they should have the same facility. It should be identical. It should be a mirror image because this is public education. It's about equality.
Let me throw this information out. So when my child was going to middle school, not sure I can't remember what grade it was. I think it was 7th grade. We lived on the south side of the big city, and not a great neighborhood. We had to, we wanted to get her into a magnet school. We had to sign a piece of paper to get on a list in order for her to be in line, to get her name drawn, to be able to go to this school.
Why did you want her in the magnet school?
Because I didn't want her going to any of the other schools that were around.
But why?
Because I knew she would have got a better education there.
Right. So...
And then come to find out, the education there wasn't any better than what the school she went to and graduated from.
That's correct.
It was all about the name, the money.
That's all it is.
And I don't understand what the difference is between a magnet school, a public school, a private school, or Joe Blow school down the damn road.
Well, a magnet school, the original intention was that it specialized in something. If your child was exceptionally gifted in music or the arts or in English or in whatever, but the problem is today that people lie to their children. They lie. Oh, you're so wonderful. You should be an actor. Let's put you on TV. So we're going to send you to this magnet school. No, I'm sorry, but Sister Bertha, that is 11 years old, 450 pounds, that all she wants to do is lay around the house and play video games, is not going to be an actor today. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't work.
I'll tell you right now, my child was not gifted in anything, so she was not any different, acceptable. There you go. Than any other child there. She wasn't an actress. She wasn't a singer. She didn't play an instrument.
But what did that magnet school specialize in? Do you remember?
Abilities like what you had just mentioned.
Right.
Yes.
So that was the idea behind the magnet school.
So my point being, if my child is not gifted in any of those criterias, what makes her any different than the Asian chick down the street that can play the violin, and she's getting a scholarship to go to this school now? What makes them any different? I mean,
what makes them any different is that she has the ability to play that violin. She plays it exceptionally well. Everybody has a talent.
But if my child doesn't have a talent, how was she able to get accepted into this school?
Right.
She didn't.
That's the point. That's the point. It became about money.
We didn't have the money.
No,
I'll tell you that right now.
But state and federal dollars that are put in there because they let her into their program. The more students you have, the more money they get. I mean, that's the whole conversation here. It's all about federal and state dollars that I've had in this conversation. That's my point. The other point is that you can't make your child something they're not. You never will. You won't be able to change it.
My other child had to go across town to a different middle school than the one down the street.
Right.
And that wasn't a magnet school.
No.
That was just a regular elementary.
Right.
Of course, it was in a better neighborhood, though. The magnet school was not. That was in a worse part of town than what we lived in.
Right. But originally, the intention was that we were going to cultivate these kind of kids. The problem is, with our demographics in our city, we don't have enough of those kids. We can't cultivate that talent like that. The point being is you shouldn't have the conversation ever that, I don't want her to go to the school in this neighborhood. We need to get her in another school somewhere else because it'll be a better school. That conversation should never happen.
Right.
Should never happen.
The school down the street from my house should have been just as good as the one at the magnet school.
That's correct. Or vice versa.
Yeah.
That school should be just as good as the collegiate private school that we have in town.
Yes.
There's no differentiation. I don't understand how you can sit there with the arrogance. And I realize teachers work hard. And it's really hard to communicate with teachers anymore because parenting has gone out the window. Teachers have become parenting, mentors. They have become all these different things. And they have to take care of so many problems. You know, the kid is supposed to be able to wipe their butt by the time they get to kindergarten and they come into school. Well, your kid can't wipe their butt, so he can't come to kindergarten. Well, that's what do you mean? He's special needs. He just can't wipe his butt. You have to take him. You have to take him. Well, now you have kindergarten teachers stopping class
For child
to
care.
take little Johnny to the bathroom to wipe his butt. And I would imagine within about a week or two, little Johnny can wipe his own butt because that teacher has spent enough time with little Johnny to teach him how to wipe his own butt because mom and dad didn't do it.
Right.
So teachers work exceptionally hard. And
And
for
they're
some
underpaid.
reason, when you say vouchers, teachers get exceptionally unhappy. I don't understand why. Because the facilities and even the teacher situation is extremely different between schools. It's a public education system.
Public. Not meant to be public/private.
That's right. So if
And it doesn't matter
If
who you
District
are or what your name
1
is.
District 1 should have the same amount of technology per capita as District 2. And District 3 should have the same amount of technology and educators per capita as District 1 and 2. I don't think it's that difficult of an equation.
No.
I don't care if there are $1 million homes, and I don't care if it's Section 8 HUD housing where people only pay $12 a month to live there. The children are not at fault.
Nope.
The children are innocent. They deserve an education, and I'm sick and tired of hearing, oh, we got to save the children. Oh, we've got to do this. We've got to do. When do we do it?
But damn, if you don't send your kid to school, what happens?
Oh, yeah, you end up in jail.
Yeah.
I just, I'm flabbergasted. And it leads right back to the comment. It leads right back to the comment. You know? White flight that began due to degradation started and exacerbated this. So because white people moved out the neighborhood, in this comment, they're not entitled to the same education as the other white kids. Now,
Nope.
So if it's white flight, they're saying that minorities lived in that community, and that they're saying that, oh, well, the white folks always get better kids. So if you want your kids to get a better education, you need to have white people living in your neighborhood. That's horse shit. That's horse shit. I'll be go to hell. I got no tolerance for any of that. It doesn't matter where you come from or who you are. You're entitled to the same thing as everybody else. And when you graduate high school and you turn that big 18, guess what, folks? You're on your own. The world is yours. At that point, we hold these truths to be self-evident.
Well, yeah.
That all people are created equal.
And look at, like, for instance, California, Los Angeles, Compton, where you have 10 black kids to every one white.
Compton especially.
Yeah.
Not so much as we used to have, but yeah.
And they just don't care about education because they know. They will actually stand there and say, well, 75% of the 10 black kids are going to end up in prison or on the street, homeless or dead. So why do we need to care about their education?
Yeah, but it's just like right here. It's like that's an excuse. Well, it's the white people's fault because they left the neighborhood. No, it's not the white people's fault
What about
It's
when you
the
have
government's
a neighborhood that
fault.
doesn't have any white kids?
because it's a public school. It's a public school. It is provided by the government. Lady Liberty is blind.
Now,
Yep.
You spent a whole lot of time in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Am I wrong?
No, I spent a lot of time at Pine Bluff, Arkansas.
Right. How is Pine Bluff, for example, any different than here, besides population-wise? But how is Pine Bluff, Arkansas, any different than Wichita, Benton, Towanda, El Dorado, whatever you want to call it, population-wise comparison? How are those two any different?
The only difference is the color of their skin.
Because
Right.
they're backwood hillbillies there.
Right.
No, not backwood hillbilly.
No, they're not.
Not.
No, they're not.
No. This is right outside of Little Rock. It's a well-developed
Okay.
city. They have interstates, infrastructure. They have all these things. There is not backwoods of Arkansas. Yes, there are places that are backwoods in Arkansas, just like in Kansas. There's some places that, well, they don't have any trees, but it's still
Yeah.
back fields, I guess.
Rock unincorporated.
Right. I mean, you know, but here's the thing. The people are just as elegant and just as beautiful, just as wonderful, just as responsible, just as the same.
Just as
The
talented.
only difference is the color of their skin.
Now,
But their
explain to
city
me-
is underfunded. Their schools are underfunded. Their struggles are real. Their struggles are different. And you want to blame... No. These are the programs that I'm talking about that are public programs that we pay taxes to fund. It should be equal. Everybody wants to scream about equality. Equality occurs when it's equal. Equality occurs that when all of the tax dollars that are being spent are distributed evenly. Not because your city can afford a bond issue to take care of this. It should be equal. This is a public education that you are required to attend.
So why is it not equal?
Why is it not equal?
Right.
It's the same comment.
Because of your
Because
color.
it says, your anger over bond issues becomes mute. When we as people realize that the reason exists and the zip codes prove it, the white flight that began due to the degradation, the desegregation, started and exacerbated this. To simply allow choice will ensure that parents with those beliefs will send their children somewhere else and then vote down the bond. So, I guess it just means that you need to live in a white neighborhood.
Yeah. Because of the color and because of your annual income.
Well, I'm going to tell you what.
I'm gonna
No.
tell you what.
Are y'all going to fight? Are you going to have sword fight in the bathroom?
Is that where you're going? Yeah. Me too. Good over, I'll join you.
For the first time in basement history on the Uneducated Rednecks, City Boy, Corey, and Fred have left to go use the facilities together. Now, I realize this may look like a big place, and you may think that this is pretty fancy, and if you could see it, you'd really start laughing, but there is only one stall in that bathroom. I don't know what they're doing. I want to shout out again to Pit Viper Sunglasses. Pit Viper Sunglasses, greatest sunglasses on earth. Go on over to www.pitvipersunglasses.com. Buy the original. Buy the best. Be great. I also want to shout out to the guy at Leon Tire here in Kansas. He's a good old boy. He's a young guy working his butt off. Like to think Coors Light. Making the bald eagles come out of the bottom.
Oh my God. Thank you, folks.
Was it like Ghostbusters? Did y'all combine the streams in there?
No. He went in the shower.
Oh my God.
Tell you what, I feel a lot lighter.
Me too.
I guess. Anyway, back to my topic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that that statement in that comic was systemic racism.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'd agree.
Because how many times do we have to look at it and say, oh, well, we need to figure out what the problem is. No.
No. Not
No.
once.
We know what the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
We know what the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
Every 4 years, you dig everybody up, put them on a front row, tell them what you're going to do, and then you don't do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do anything. How in the world? How? I don't understand how people sleep. Whitney Houston sang that song, I believe the children are our future.
Yep.
Teach them well and let them lead the way. Well, I guess you better live in a white neighborhood according to this lady.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at the end of it. Evidently,
what happened
evidently we're going to have a new president is what it looks like at the moment. Now, that's all subject to change, and get that.
What happens if you live in a rural area? And
Well, you want the honest opinion? I can only speak from personal experience on that, but when I was a kid, we moved to the country.
Mm-hmm.
A little bitty town. We were 20 miles away. I was the first one on the school bus, last one off the school bus. I rode the school bus every day for an hour and a half each way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I had to wait for the country bus to come back, which was a city bus that ran a route.
Mm-hmm.
They had Apple computers. The school that I came from, that was basically the town was run by the big oil company, didn't have Apple computers. And I mean, these are Apple computers, and I don't. You're thinking like Mac and things like this now. That's
No.
not what we had then.
They-
But it
the
was a
green-
brown, flat top thing. If you ever watched the movie about Steve Jobs, they show a glimpse of one of these, and you had to have a separate TV or a separate monitor to put on top of it. It was quite the deal.
It had a green screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this was. I mean, we played Oregon Trail with a joystick that you were afraid to touch.
And-
It kind of looked like that, and you were afraid to break it.
And cat. Or the
But that educational facility,
Roger.
had I stayed in that educational facility, because I came from the big city and I went to the little city, I actually, they took, when I was in the big city, I was in remedial classes. When I came to the little city, now it's smaller classrooms, smaller, less per capita and everything else. And there was one mistake in this whole deal why it didn't work out, and I can tell you what it is when I get done. But they actually sat down and asked me questions and did stuff with me, and they didn't just look at test scores or anything else, because in my entirety of standardized testing, I drew patterns on the punch card, and I colored in the circles and the patterns that I liked, because as soon as you got done, you could walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And I would wait for one other person to turn their card in, and then I would go turn mine in, because that way I
You
didn't
weren't
look like
the
I was the first one.
Yeah.
But it was already done. I was sitting there, chewing on the pages of the paper at this point, or eating pencil erasers, whatever I was doing. But these people actually cared enough that they sat down, had a conversation with me, understood what I'm learning, and I can remember to this day the lady's last name was Hildebrand. That was her maiden name. And she looked at me and she said, "You're not dumb. Why are you in these classes?" I said, "I don't know." So, and I didn't do too terrible. I did pass. Rural communities are a lot different. I came from a city at that point and went to a rural community. I had a big learning curve. For that, the only demise that I had was that all the other kids changed classes all day.
Mm.
Well, for her to put me in the classes that she wanted me to be in, I sat in the same classroom all day. So, in my brain, it didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that the teacher's fault? No, she didn't know. She didn't understand, Now, we should know the difference. We should be able to cultivate that. There should be somebody with similar experiences that should be able to share, hey, we can't do this. But that's the way it is. But yeah, I mean, was the gym as nice? No, I think it was built in 45 or something like that. But for some reason, they had Apple computers, and every day at the end of school, because I had a half hour to kill, I would sit down and I would write code to make those Apple computers do things, because the librarian was pretty sharp. And that's what I did. And of course, once I went back to the big city after my parents got a divorce, all that changed. That I didn't have the availability to see these things. So, and then we had what we call gifted and talented programs in grade school, which I thought were phenomenal. But gifted and talented doesn't always mean straight A's. Gifted and talented means that there is some kind of gift that we're trying to cultivate, whether it's music or language or art or physical fitness or football or basketball or weightlifting or whatever it may be. There's something that we could cultivate, so that we need to bring those things back. Now I think they call them AP classes or advanced placement classes or something, because we can't call it gifted. We can't do whatever.
Right.
And I guess I can appreciate that, you know. But it all goes back when you say things like that. Just because the white people don't live in the neighborhood anymore, you're not entitled to the same thing. Systemic racism at its best.
Yep.
Because I can guarantee you one thing: there's a lot of things in this world I am, but a racist is not one of them.
Right.
I spent a lot of time traveling the country. I've seen a lot of children. I've done a lot of things. And I don't have the stomach for it anymore. I don't know where to take it. I don't know what you're supposed to do.
Well, it's pretty intolerable nowadays. I mean, honestly, we've already been through well, I guess I can't say we've been through it, because we're going through it again, but it's uncalled for. There's no reason for it.
I can understand that mom and dad make bad choices and they don't know how to manage their money. I can understand. And that's why they live where they live.
Yeah.
But just because she has 9 kids, an Apple iPhone, and it lives on welfare and lives in Section 8 housing, does not mean that that child does not deserve the same education as anybody else in the United States.
But you want to know
Period.
something? Even if you live in Section 8, you still, as long as your child is in school, they still have a computer, they still have a laptop, they still, 9 times out of 10, have a cell phone.
But I don't care. See, that's all the details that are unimportant. That child didn't choose to be here.
And I'm not saying that's from their parents, that's from the school. Because anymore, schools operate off computers, laptops. The kids go home with laptops.
Well, even in our district, where we have a huge, diverse district. We don't have as many poor people as we used to 10 years ago or 11 years ago when my kids were in grade school. Now we have, $1 million neighborhoods not too far from us.
Right.
And so the money is a little bit different for our school district now. But even with our school district, with the wonderful freaking coronavirus, they were scrambling to come up with enough computers to be able to send home with kids. And then we still have kids that don't even have internet. So what's the point of giving them a Chromebook? You can't even put anything on the hard drive. It doesn't have a hard drive. It all has to go to the cloud. You want to set a kid up for failure? Oh, make it web-based.
Well, now you have the ability, even if you are on Section 8 or you're poor, you have the ability to be able to get some kind of internet. It's like another,
Yes, and
like a welfare thing.
Right. And I've
Subsidy.
done the research on this, and that's great.
Yeah.
That's
At least
great.
the child is able to be able to get interweb to be able to do their schoolwork.
No, it looks good on paper. It doesn't. They're throttled. They can't keep up with the Zoom classes. There's prime examples in some of our community around here, but they're all throttled and everything else. They don't get the full ride. They don't get the cruising internet. They don't get any of that. Even if you just made it during school hours where it cruised so that the kids could actually participate in the Zoom classes and do things like that, they're given limited internet.
Well,
they're throttled
if you
down,
can't afford
and
the
then
internet, that's
then
all you need then.
Right, but if it won't operate to be able to let you into the Zoom meetings and everything else that they're having, then it's pointless. But
Well,
for another $15, if you just pay $15 extra, you can have this. So
99 cents a day.
Here we go again. They don't have the money for the internet already. Now, don't get me wrong, there's exceptions to the rule where people have the money, but they buy tattoos or lottery tickets, or they drink too much Coors Light, or they smoke too many Marlboro cigarettes, or they got a meth habit, or whatever it is. That's all fine and good. That child is still entitled to the education. When the child turns 18, then he can be dropped on his head and say, you know what? You make your own decisions. Sorry about your parents. Have a great life.
Hopefully it's better.
Yes. And the only
Make
way
it
it
better.
gets better
His mom
Dr.
did.
Ben Carson is a great story. Damon from Shark Tank. There's a great story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, West Coast Customs.
Mm-hmm.
There's another great story. I mean, there's 1,000 stories of how somebody made education important, and they came out the other side. So if we really are going to save the children, let's just start with the damn education system and make it a level playing field.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of hearing it. People tell me, "Oh, you're racist. Redneck is termed." I had a conversation in the Waffle House. Little girl come in. I was in a Waffle House in Ohio. I was in Ohio, actually. I went up to see Steve, and I pulled into the Waffle House right next to the Hampton Inn where I was going to stay. And I pulled in there, and there was a black lady and a white lady, and they were in there working, and they were having a conversation. And you know me, I got right in the middle of the conversation to have a good time. And then pretty soon, these two little girls walked in. Now, these two little girls were not white, and I give them a hard time. And everybody in the room was laughing, and we were all smiling and everything else. And then she proceeded to give me a hard time, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And I looked at her, and I said, hey, you can't talk to me like that. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, I'm YouTube famous. I said, we have 2 YouTube channels. I'm famous. And she said, are you really? And I said, oh, absolutely. Well, what's your page? So I told her. And she looked it up, and she said, you're not famous. You got like 300 subscribers. That's not famous. I said, well, in my mind, I'm famous.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, why that term redneck? Why? She called it prejudice.
Did you tell her to Google it?
No. She called it prejudice. I told her, I said, no. I said, the term you're looking for is racist.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, no, prejudice. I said, no. I said, the term you're looking for is racist, isn't it? And she looked at me and she said, yo, why would you say that? I said, because it's not true. I said, you're black. And immediately she said, yes, I am, but I am not. Insert the N-word here. And I said, no. None of God's people are.
Mm-hmm.
I said that word is used too much within that culture, and it needs to stop. I said, you, and she had 2 kids. She was 26 or 27 years old. And I asked her how many kids she had, and she told me. And then she got kind of wadded up, like, she was like, but I got a job, and I'm doing it. And I'm like, hey, I'm asking about the kids, because the kids, how are their life? How's this going? Everything else. But she was really hung up on the term redneck. And I found it fascinating. But I guess that's the point of the whole thing, is that people aren't always what they seem. And it's just like this comment here. White flight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's white flight, why hadn't she done something? If it's equality and equalness and greatness and everything else, because this whole conversation came up over Biden being elected and somebody making the comment that now we have one of ours in the White House and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, great, H.R. 1 needs to include school choice. Because for the inner city kids that are getting a crappy education because the funding isn't there from the local community, then they ought to be able to go down the road and go to another school. They ought to be able to get the same education as the other guys down the road. And it was just like I'd set the world on fire. I don't understand. They're entitled to the same education. I don't care what building it's at. But if you have an AstroTurf football field with all-star players that are going to college and getting free scholarships, then these people need the same thing. They need the same level playing field. It shouldn't be just, oh, this one elitist group, yeah, they just, if you can wait in line long enough, you can get your kid in there, and you can, you know, if he's really that good at football. No, that's crap. They're all in. The children don't make decisions, the adults do. And the children, educationally, are not responsible for their mom and dad poor decisions. You will never change the world unless you change the people. And the only way to change people is at a young age. And that is what I have to say about that. You're awfully quiet. Fred.
That is the rest of the story.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I allowed to speak now that you're off your fucking rampage?
Whoa.
Whoa!
Guy.
Excuse me. Your rampage.
Oh, you done messed up already.
Yeah. Now, we had done so well through the entire conversation that Fred chimes in. Okay, Fred, I'm sorry.
What do you want me to say? That people
I don't know.
Nothing at all.
that besides the fact that everybody wants to bring, well, this color here, that color, and this color, and that one 10 steps over.
Speaking of color, and by the way, for you,
There's your color, motherfucker.
that's right.
Okay, right there.
That's right. And just by the way, just so we're absolutely clear, Jesus was not white.
What color was he?
Well, he was in the Middle East, so what color do you think he was?
Tan.
He wasn't white.
He was tan.
He wasn't white.
was
He
tan.
wasn't this white ivory Christmas that we carry around.
But he wasn't black either.
He was the Son of God. What color was Adam and Eve? Do we even know?
No.
If you add up the population of the world and you look around at all the different people that are in the world,
You know
guess
why?
who's the biggest minority?
You know why? Because nothing was ever said about the color of Adam and Eve.
That's right, because we're all God's people.
Color wasn't an issue at that point.
It is now.
Who made it an issue?
People.
Here's your colors right here. Okay, here's your colors. You
That's
can
your
take-
snack.
You shut the hell up for a minute. You can take these colors right here, the black, green, white, purple, pink, and stuff them up your ass. Because your racism is bullshit. I'm gonna get in trouble for this. You're gonna,
Yes, you are.
you're gonna have to bleep it out. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, like Special Ed over here has said numerous times, we're all God's people. God doesn't give a shit. Whether you were white, black, tan, dark, whatever, you were still his people. Now, I'm not going to get my high horse because my high horse ain't that tall. I'm not going to lie. I'm probably not the most religious person in this world. I do need a little more Jesus in my life, and I'll own that. But at the end of the day, God says, love thy neighbor. And I'm okay with that because I love my neighbor. That's fine. But you're going to be sitting here telling me because of what has happened in this country that bleep you and the horse you rode in on because you don't agree with my political beliefs, and that's fine. That's great. God says love thy neighbor. I don't have to agree with him or City Boy or any of them or the captain or anybody. I don't have to agree with them. That's great. I have to love them because that's what God says. Now, at the end of the day, just because you grew up rough, for example, these two here, they had a very rough upcoming. Am I wrong?
Nope.
No, but
Now,
now you say that. There are people that had it rougher than me.
you're
And
not
me.
wrong. You're not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now, take your childhood and look at mine.
Oh,
Do you see the difference of my childhood and your childhood?
I see the difference in my childhood and your childhood from my perspective. Yes.
Right.
But that, I mean,
Now,
it's
Because,
a good
see, boy-
it's a good what's the word I'm looking for?
but
I don't know.
But
It's a good there you go, comparison. But the difference is he basically made your childhood.
You're not wrong. But look at your childhood and my childhood.
Correct.
How far different are those?
Extremely different.
There, yeah.
Right.
Extremely.
Now, what is the one thing as a parent that my father has always told me and always asked of me?
Don't be like him.
Right. So, if you look at it through my point of view and my perspective of the way that this country is, your parents want you to be better than them. My parents
Yep.
wanted me to be better than them.
And I want my kids to be better than me.
Right. So you look at that and you look at the grand scheme of things, and everybody nowadays has their head so far up, you know what, that they don't even know where to turn around at. So what's the best way to make my child better than me? Well, let me send him over here. Well, let me do this with him. Let me pay for them to go to Iowa for a week and go to a basketball camp because my kid's 6'6" and he deserves to go play basketball in Iowa for a week.
If he has the skill, yep.
Yes, but if he
But
doesn't
you-
have the skill, there ain't no
No.
sense in sending him.
But
No.
you gonna spend $4,000 to send your kid to Iowa for a week.
If he has the skill.
If he has the
because
skill.
you know, if he has that skill, that is only going to benefit him for him at that point and his future.
And that's part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. It is part of the problem.
Because how many of those people get sent there that don't have that skill?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was my point.
But-
is how many of those kids that they're not good at basketball, they're not good at football, they're not good at this, they're not good at that or whatever, but their parents have the money to go, you know what, I'm going to send you here anyway because this is where you need to be because you have to be better than me. So since you have to be better than me, I will pay for you to go join this group over here and this is where you're going to land because you're entitled to it because we have the money.
I don't know, Fred. I could kind of disagree with you on that. I have a nephew that was really good at basketball. My sister and my brother-in-law, they had money. They sent him to all kinds of basketball camps up in Lawrence, KU, you know.
Right.
And the kid still does not fulfill a career in basketball.
Right. And
So, I mean,
and I agree.
in what prospect does that do for him while he's a child?
in my
Well, I can tell you a little bit about what that's doing for him as a child. I can give you the point that the child at some point during this thing realized he was good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, didn't mean that he was going to go to the NBA, but he realized he was good at it and he was successful at it. Success breeds success. When you find things that are in your realm of capabilities, you can excel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the educational system fails
Mm-hmm.
every time. If you would cater to the needs of the people in their own unique way, because it's not just one guy. There's groups of people. There's ways to do this to where people can excel and they will walk away with a better understanding. Doesn't mean they're all going to be Bill Gates or Elon Musk or Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton or Beyonce or Usher who has his own credit card. there just isn't. It doesn't mean that. But there's some self-fulfillment that comes from it because you know you are successful at it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't drink that. That's been down here for a while.
Since Mr. Moss. We're about out of time.
But to further this example, you were my coach when I played Little League football and Little League baseball.
Yes, and if I was to rate you on the football field, let me rephrase that. If you were to rate you on the football field, would you place yourself as an A, B, or C player
Me?
during the time that I coached? I'm not talking about middle school or high school. I'm talking about previous A, B, or C.
To be real honest,
That's
I mean-
what I'm hoping for.
I mean,
Don't lie.
At that point in time in my life, I mean, I'd have gone between B and C. I was never an A player, in my opinion.
Yes, but because I was a coach and you were my kid, whenever draft day came around, when we could draft the other kids whose daddies weren't coaches, you were an A player,
Right.
according to everybody else on the spectrum. Oh, Kyle's an A player because everybody wanted to cram room for their A players. Because that means if I had one A player and you had an A player and you had an A player, but my kid was, and I convinced you that my kid was a C player, then I got 2 more A players out of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 if my kid was not an A player.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now,
And that's
I agree
the
with
same game. That's the same game that is going on in the school.
Oh,
Right.
well, let me tell you a story. So, when I was a kid, I had the love of basketball. So, 7th and 8th grade, we had.
Do we need beers?
No, I'm good. He's good. So, 7th and 8th grade, we had A, B, and C. A, obviously, was like varsity. B was junior varsity. And C was just the leftovers.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I started out playing basketball, I thought I had some pretty good talent. My coach obviously did not. He put me on the C team. Well, I busted my tail. I proved to him I don't belong on the C team. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to bash my other teammates. They do good. Obviously, we win, but I don't know. I don't understand why they are on the C team. So, I busted my tail. I actually was able to bump myself up to the B team and went on through the rest of 7th and 8th grade year as a B player. I never made it to the A team. I apparently wasn't that good, but went on to high school, freshman year, went to basketball practice. We had 2-a-days, and the coach pulled myself and 11 other players into the locker room and basically told us, hey, you are wasting your time, you're wasting the other guys' time, and you're wasting my time. You will never get any playing time. You can try out all you want to, but you're not going to play.
Did your daddy go to school?
No.
Did your mama go to school?
No.
Did you cry?
No. Thank you. Therefore, that is pretty much when I lost all respect in my school, and my school went downhill from there.
Oh, you weren't gonna drink that beer?
Now,
Because-
that may have been a selfish thing on my behalf. I don't know. But I just felt, okay, well, if this teacher / coach is like this, what is the rest of the school like? First year in school. At this high school, what is the rest of this school going to be like?
Right. But that being said, hopefully my thing's still blinking.
Because I was not as good as the varsity and or junior varsity. But in middle school, you can basically consider me as at least a junior varsity player.
Okay.
So how is that any different?
I don't think it's any different. So, anyway, we have been out here almost 2.5 hours.
Yep.
So, this is what we're going to do. This conversation will be carried over. We'll play the refresher feed when we all get back together again.
Yep.
And we'll figure it out. Like I said before, and 1,000 times before, be nice to people. We're all God's people. We all belong to be here, and we all deserve a chance. Doesn't mean we're entitled to the same things, but we all deserve a chance. And if we're going to save the damn children, then let's save the damn children and quit playing around. You can find me at Special Ed on the Facebook or the Redneck Ranch.
You can find me at wildman.fred on the Instagram.
You can find me at cityboy_Corey. Yeah, whatever.
Why don't you start again?
cityboy_Corey.
There you go.
Instagram.
And be sure you like and subscribe. Click the notification bell. Make sure you shift it up to all, not personalized. That way you get all of our podcast results in. Hey, we're looking for a sponsor. We need some lights for our tractor on the Redneck Ranch side. So if you know any good ideas or have any good ideas for some lights or have any recommendations, give us a shout.
Hey,
follow us on the Redneck Ranch for hopefully weekly vlogs.
What?
It's city_boy.Corey.
Thank you, Wild Man.
There we go.
Boom.
Wild Man Fred has it goes out. We love you.
Love you.
I hope you love us. Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
Down here in the Coors Light Bucket Shoot number 1, we're going to turn Special Ed and City Boy Corey loose. I'll stay and hang out, though.
Good night.
It's been a wonderful time.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Uneducated Rednecks podcast. We're here to learn about people's stories, express our opinions, and we hope you enjoyed this time with us. Tune in next week when we talk about something that, well, who knows what we'll talk about. Anyway, remember, we love you. God loves you. We're all God's people. Be nice to somebody.